Quick note before the video begins. If you're watching this when the video has come out, I'm currently live streaming. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities. If I'm not on stream, feel free to comment down below. Enjoy. Being able to gauge the potential of both teams' champions is very crucial to winning fights. And winning fights is, hands down, the most important objective in League, because it lets you get most objectives on the map uncontested, at pretty much any stage of the game. If you kill your lane opponent, that's usually a denied wave and a tower plate. If you win a teamfight at 35 plus minutes, that's game no matter what. And what winning any teamfight comes down to is knowing what you and your opponents are capable of doing. It goes without saying that you need to know the abilities of champions, as well as the general stats and how systems work with each other. Obviously, one can learn abilities by playing as or against a specific champion, but most people completely ignore the systems part of the equation. So this video series will be about the systems of League, starting with HP, shields, and resistances. Starting from the obvious, things like champions, towers, minions, monsters, the Nexus, some traps, and wards all have HP. Of course, wards' HP work differently by that they take 1 point of damage no matter what hits them, and they have either 1, 3, or 4 HP depending on the type of ward. But the only exception being Umbral Glaive. For those who don't know, it's an item that reveals wards and traps, and it also makes you deal triple damage to wards and one-shots revealed traps. Speaking of traps, I'm going to rapid fire through the traps. Nidalee's Bushwhack and Teemo's Mushroom both have 6 HP. Melee autos deal 3, and ranged auto attacks deal 2 damage to them. Jin's Lotus Trap only has 3 HP, but each auto attack only deals 1 damage, just like a ward. Shaco's Jack-in-the-Box was made in 2009, so nobody knows how the fuck it works. It has some amount of HP and acts like a regular HP bar, but I have no idea how much it is. Also, there's Zyre's Plants, but I'm not vegan, so I don't really care. And then there's champions. Champions all start with base stats, including health, health regen, AD, AP, armor, magic resistance, and sometimes an additional resource. And the amount of base stats is unique to every champion. All of these, besides resources like energy, heat, fury, Mordekaiser's stupid fucking shield bar, all start at a set value and can't be increased beyond their maximum value. But when you level up, all of your champion stats besides AP get increased slightly. A couple edgy champions, those being Thresh and Pyke, ignore some of these rules in exchange for having alternate means of gaining raw stats. Well, there's not much explaining to do about HP. It's pretty boring on its own. If your HP is reduced to 0, you fucking die. Also, shields act the same way as health, so they benefit from the champion's armor and magic resistance, just like HP would. When HP becomes interesting is when you put it with armor and magic resistance. Before I nerd over some more stats, let me explain how armor and MR work. If you're confident that you already know how they work, you can skip to the timestamp.
Okay.
You see, armor and MR aren't flat, meaning 40 armor is not twice the damage reduction as 20 armor. Well, on its own it's not, but it really is when you consider effective HP. Have you ever heard of a term called effective HP? Has been an interesting topic of discussion back in the day, about 5 or 6 years ago, but I haven't seen it being taught since. For those who don't know, effective HP is just your health value multiplied by your incoming damage multiplier. The incoming damage multiplier is a percentage you see when you hover over your armor or MR stat, subtracted from 100%. If you're reducing physical damage by 70%, your incoming damage multiplier is 30%. By that example, your effective HP against physical damage would be your HP times 1.3. This is super important to know because it's proof for debunking a common misconception that armor and MR have diminishing returns. The more you have of one, the lower your returns will be. This is not true. It's an easy misconception to believe, since the tooltip shows you that you get less % damage reduction out of every one armor or MR the more you have of them. But if you observe damage taken, you will see that no matter what your current resistance value is, every one armor or MR you buy will raise your effective HP by 1% for their respective damage type. That's right, if you have 6,000 armor, and then you buy one armor, it will still be the same as buying 1% HP. To put things into perspective, if you have 1500 HP, buying a ruby crystal which gives you 150 HP, would increase your HP by 10%, which would be the same as buying both 10 armor and 10 magic resistance. If you have 3000 HP, buying a ruby crystal would only increase your HP by 5%, which would be the same as buying 5 armor and 5 magic resist. So ironically, buying more HP will give you diminishing returns if you're considering effective HP, which you always should be since EHP is what practically matters. It's literally your health while considering your resistances, which begs the question, is your build wrong? Yes. Now that I know that you know that I know that you're intrigued, here's some of my other videos that are similar in fashion. If you don't see any that has a similar thumbnail as this one, that's because this one is the first of many. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Coming up with a feasible idea, writing a script, doing a voiceover for the script, then getting the appropriate footage, then curating the music, editing the memes, making the graphs, making the thumbnail, all those take a while to do. So if you like my work, please for the love of God subscribe, like and share this video so I can grind my social credit score.
Oyun istiyorum.